This is Chip Paul for another exciting Chip Talks. So today we're going to talk about these new brand of weight loss drugs that are coming out. Ozempic is one of them. There are others. There's one that just got approved by the FDA. But they all do about the same thing. So what I want to do is talk you guys through what these drugs are doing. Educate you a little bit about kind of what's going on. You'll learn some other things about how you work along the way, we hope. And then also talk to you about the dangers of using these drugs, and then what you can do to do the same thing that these drugs are doing, without the drugs, basically, or, how you can do the same thing with natural processes. Again, the cool thing about your body is it's programmable, right? So all of these pharma drugs are just programming your body. How can you program your body on your own? Diet, behavior, okay? So you have as much control, let's say, over your body as these drugs appear to be exercising over your body. So first of all, feel very empowered. I say this all the time, no one ever gave me an instruction manual as to how I work, right? And so no one gave you one either. So we have to rediscover these things. And sadly, our medical system, our pharma system is horrible about educating us about how we work. And so we need better education. So that's hopefully what I'm here to do, to help you find your path to better education about the way that some of this stuff works. So let's begin to tear this down right off. So first thing I want to, sort of discuss with you is what these guys are. So most of these drugs come back to a source, and it's called Semaglutide. And this guy has a very specific mechanism of action. So we're not going to talk about him much. We're going to talk about what he does inside of your body. And what he does inside of your body is he affects something called GLP-1. Okay? So GLP-1 is a very important protein in how your body deals with sugar, so glucose, and how your body deals with insulin. So GLP-1 is a very important regulator of how we're dealing with insulin, how we're dealing with glucose. And this is why it works and is so effective in weight loss, right? So again, if I can cut back your insulin signaling or improve your insulin signaling, kind of cut back on your need for glucose, force you into fat processing, into beta oxidation, that's going to be really, really good for you. You can go back and listen to some of my previous videos about intermittent fasting, but that's basically what we're doing, is we're kind of forcing an intermittent fasting situation. Okay, so real quick, what does GLP-1 look like? So this amino acid sequence is what GLP-1 looks like, and this is what your body naturally produces, okay? So, and again, all these peptides or proteins it's just a string of amino acids. So there's hydrogen, histine, alanine, glutamate, glycine, so you can go on and on down the list there, but you can see basically what GLP-1 consists of. Now, how do you stimulate GLP-1? Well, basically you eat, okay? But we're going to talk about that in more detail in a second. But this last point here is super duper important. And this is what Ozempic is it's basically the first, amino acid sequence up here. And they modify it a little bit so it can't be broken down by your natural protein that naturally breaks this guy down, called DPP-4. Okay, so this is a pretty important point in the stuff that they're, if you're going to go get Ozempic, the stuff that they're, or the stuff that's like Ozempic, the stuff that they're injecting in you is a modified version of GLP-1 that cannot be broken down by your body's natural processes. And it lasts a week, okay? So I don't know if we want something running around inside our body that lasts a week that we can't break down, that is not a natural thing, right? So that's what Ozempic is. That's what this Semaglutide or whatever, however you pronounce it, is. So that's what that stuff is. It is a mimic of your natural GLP-1 that runs around your body and will run around your body for a week. Now, I'll say right off the bat, that's not a good idea to do. It may cause you to lose weight. You may get the, let's say, intended result from doing that, but you're causing your body a lot of harm because you're really, you're like getting in the middle of how your car runs by messing around with a bunch of the, pistons and stuff, right? So you're in some pretty high level processes in your body, and we need to be careful if we're going to do that. There are always unintended consequences. So here you see kind of what goes on, but DPP-4 can inhibit GLP-1. So again, we don't want really too much DPP-4 when we're, going through this process. So what inhibits DPP-4? Well, you can see some drugs over there that inhibit DPP-4, which would be the same thing as increasing GLP-1. And down at the bottom, you can see some drugs, Ozempic is in there, that increase GLP-1. And what this does is it promotes basically a better state of mitochondrial function, let's say, that is called beta oxidation, that is called oxidative phosphorylation. And again, if you go back and watch previous videos about intermittent fasting, you'll hear me talk a lot about the switch that we have. So when we're fed, we're over here, we're burning glucose. When we're fasted, we're up here, we're burning fat. This is where we want to be. We're 50 times more powerful up here. So this GLP-1 is forcing that switch within reason. It's not totally forcing that switch, but it's forcing that switch within reason. And again, you don't want to force that switch all the time because your body is naturally going through this process between fasting and fed. So when you've just eaten, you don't want to be in kind of the state that Ozempic puts you in and some of these other drugs put you in, because it can be dangerous to you. Okay, so what is the benefit of GLP-1? Well, you can see that it's got a lot of benefit, okay? So it's got a ton of benefit. And a lot of the things that you would normally want to see happening, in a weight loss situation, this guy does. A lot of the things that you want to see happening in let's say, just a good health situation, this guy does. But again, your body is going to flip. Your body doesn't always, your body goes back and forth between these different states. And again, the drug, let's say the synthetic GLP-1, is going to force these states, while your natural GLP-1 is going to work with your body and again, not force an unnatural situation of release of GLP-1, whereas the synthetic would do that. Hopefully that's making sense, because again, you want to, in how we deal with the human body, we want to blow with the wind. So we want to work with God's system, rather than fight God's system. When we use a synthetic, like this Semaglutide, we're pushing a rock uphill. I don't know if we're fighting God's system or not. That's a judgment beyond my pay grade, but we're certainly pushing a rock uphill. If we use the body's natural processes to stimulate GLP-1, and if we use the body's natural processes to do this, that's blowing with the wind. That's, pushing a rock downhill. So that's really working with our body to build better processes and to better understand our body and to do this stuff without, unnatural drugs, right? Because isn't that the goal? I mean, we have to get rid of this one pill fixes all mentality. It's gotten us, addicted, let's say, to pharma and medicine. We think that we can't make changes in our body without pharma coming out with a new drug. That is so not true. That is so wrong. Again, you make changes all the time. Every time you eat a meal, you are making changes in your body. You are very programmable, and we can use this information to, stimulate things like GLP-1, which is really, really cool. Okay, another component to all this, and again, another thing that we need to take into consideration as we're looking at this whole GLP-1 situation, is our circadian rhythm. So different things happen during different times of the day and evening as related to GLP-1 and its release. You don't want to force these situations. So again, if you've got a synthetic that's circulating in your blood for 7 days that you can't break down, you're going to be forcing situations, and you're going to be forcing, let's say, you're going to be very specifically programming your computer to do things that it may or may not want to do all through the course of a day, and that can be dangerous, and we don't want to do that. So as a result of that, again, we have some adverse events associated with Ozempic, okay? So, or Semaglutide. I'm not sure if this is Ozempic in particular, but you'll notice that, again, in this study, which is a pretty good sized study, almost every single person in this study had some kind of gastrointestinal bad results, all right? And that's because of this. Your body wants to flip. Your body wants to change processes. It does not want, nor does it need, GLP-1 or a synthetic GLP-1 to be active all the time. If it is, it's going to cause unintended consequences. Yes, you're going to lose weight, but you might wreck your liver in the process, and that's probably not a good result. Okay, so I love AI. It's so cool. And again, AI doesn't really, it's not going to help you suddenly become more creative, but if you are creative, it's going to help you do things like write or research or do things faster. And so, again, I went out and asked the AI about GLP-1. And I said, what can we do to increase GLP-1 naturally? A supplement that you can take is berberine, which is interesting, but let me just sort of read you this. And this is actually, I asked it the other way. I said, what do we do that causes GLP-1 to be degraded? Okay, so what do we do that causes this peptide that we naturally make to go down, which would cause us, to lose signaling, which would cause obesity and type 2 diabetes, okay? So what do we do that causes this thing to go down? Well, a lot. So a high intake of dietary fat. Do we have a high intake of dietary fat? Yes, we do, and all of us do. Again, if you eat meat, you can't get around that one. You're gonna have a high intake of dietary fat. Do you have a high intake of dietary protein? If you do, again, that's going to impact your ability. It's going to inhibit GLP-1. If you've got hyperglycemia, if you eat a lot of sugar, that is going to impact your ability to build GLP-1. Some medications, glucocorticosteroids in particular, will affect, I never can say that word, but will affect GLP-1. Smoking will affect GLP-1 in the negative. High stress levels will affect GLP-1 in the negative. And inflammatory conditions like pathogenic infections and things like that, like most of us have, will affect GLP-1 in the negative. Then I decided to ask ChatGPT if intermittent fasting would help GLP-1 status. And it turns out it does quite a bit. So again, if you want to increase GLP-1 naturally, a very easy way to do this is with through intermittent fasting. And you can kind of read the ways here that it does that. But intermittent fasting is going to improve our gut microbiota, which will improve GLP-1. Intermittent fasting will improve our insulin sensitivity, which will improve GLP-1. And it's a meal-induced response. So it helps basically our response to our meal to produce GLP-1. All right, so again, if you're out there, if you are overweight, if you're concerned about your weight, and if you want a natural solution to begin to reduce your weight, please don't, do what you want to do. It's up to you. But again, these quick solutions, these one pill quick solutions, are pushing a rock uphill, and that can cause unintended consequences in your body. It's far better to understand which way the wind's blowing and blow with the wind to accomplish the same goal that you want to accomplish. So here are my suggestions as to what you can do if you want to lose weight, if you want to begin to control your weight, or also if you have type 2 diabetes, these same things work. So the first thing is consider intermittent fasting. We talk a lot about intermittent fasting, so if you want more information about that, we're always putting out information about intermittent fasting. If you want to be managed through your intermittent fast, that's something that we do here at Neighborly Nutrition. So I'll help you do that. I'll be your coach. I'll be your goad, your helper, let's say. So we will certainly do that if you want us to do that. The other thing that I would suggest that you do is evaluate your diet for cooked fats and evaluate your diet for processed foods. So if you're eating a lot of processed sugar, if you're eating a lot of processed fats, if you're eating from the middle of the store rather than the edges of the store, that's not so good. The other thing that does kind of cause, let's say, an inhibition of GLP-1 is cooking fat. So if you eat a lot of, let's say, cooked meats, then you need to look at that, and you might want to look at finding better sources of protein, better sources of fat than you're getting from your cooked meats. Again, is it okay to eat some meat? I don't know. I know it's damaging to eat a lot of saturated fat, and it's really, really damaging to eat cooked saturated fat. Okay, and then the last thing is consider looking at our True Medics products. So we're getting ready to have a product come out here. This product will be all natural based. It should cut appetite. There's going to be some rules with it, like you need to take it when you're fasted. But it should be a nice product that's going to help you with appetite control and appetite suppression. So if you're interested in being a part of that trial will cost something, so you will have to pay for the product. But we are running that trial now, so feel free to contact us if that's of interest, and we will get you on that trial and see where we go. And that trial also will be iterative, so I'm not set yet on that formulation, so it will move around a little bit, but it's getting pretty close to being done. Anyway, hope you guys have enjoyed this version of Chip Talks. Look for us this month. We'll have several other exciting Chip Talks coming out. Good to see you guys. As always, we care deeply about your health. If you have health issues, if you're concerned about your health, contact us. It doesn't really matter how bad it is, how severe it is. We'll be able to get you some help. We'll be able to get you to the right place. Anyway, love you guys. See you guys, and we'll see you next time on Chip Talks. Bye.